Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another virtual field trip. I am Mary Wilson with the Alabama Farmers Federation, and we're so excited to have you guys with us today. I know a lot of y'all are already celebrating the end of school this week, so this is a fun extra field trip for you just to throw something else on after the end of the school year. And we hope that you'll hang with us next week as well, because that's when we will end our virtual field trip series. So thank you so much for joining us. To start, we like to do our little roll call with each of these virtual field trips. So if you will, in the comments, go ahead and let us know where you're watching from. No matter where that is in the state of Alabama, if you're in a different state, if you happen to be in a different country, we would love to know where you're watching from. It's fun for our farmers to see that as well. So just share that in the comments section, even if you're not watching this live. If you're watching it later on, give us a comment to let us know to represent your hometown. Now, today we're going to be talking about trees. So if you've been watching each of these every week, you're probably going, didn't we talk about trees last week? And you'd be right, we did. But we visited a tree nursery last week. This week it's going to be different. We're focusing on our state's forestry industry and all the pine trees that you see all over Alabama. So those are pine trees, pine plantations. And a fun fact about Alabama, we actually rank third in the country behind only Oregon and Georgia for the acres that we have of timberland. So even though we're smaller than those states, we have a whole lot of trees, which is something to be proud of. So if you have any questions about pine trees or the forestry industry or what kind of products we get from trees, throw those in the comments as well, along with your hometown and all of that. And we'll get to those in just a little bit after we hear from our farmer, and that is Cheryl Lassiter. So we'll bring Cheryl up here. And Cheryl had a birthday this week too. So you guys can say happy birthday to her. And Kelly, I think the camera is on you right now. If you want to press the flip, and then I'll her daughter is with her as well. There's Cheryl. Everybody say hi to Cheryl. We're so excited to have you join us today. So Cheryl, to start out, if you will, tell us about Choctaw County and where you are in the state of Alabama, and then just take it away from there.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As Mary said, I'm from Choctaw County, and Choctaw County is located in the southwest corner of the state. If you've ever been to Mobile, it's about 80 miles due north of Mobile, right on the Alabama-Mississippi line. We're a very rural county, and forestry is the number one industry in our county. And today I'd just like to tell you a little bit about forestry. I've worked in forestry for like 38 years or so in the forest industry. Uh, Forestry, like starts out with a little pine tree, and they're planted in pine plantations. And when they reach 12 to 15 years old, we thin the plantation. We take out about every third row and any diseased trees, and haul those. They're actually cut by a fellow buncher, and then they're gathered with a skidder and hauled to a loading deck. And from the loading deck, they're loaded onto a truck, and they're trucked to a mill like Georgia Pacific. Georgia Pacific has been in our county since 1950, and they produce Angel Soft toilet tissue and Brawny paper towels. And anyway, then after the trees are thinned at 12 to 15 years, then about 10 years later, they're thinned again. And then at age 30 to 40 years, they're mature logs, and those logs are cut and made into lumber. I'm sure you probably know that your house probably has lots of lumber in it, and it came from a pine tree. The forest provides lots of jobs. Like you could be a forester and take care of the forest. You could be a game warden and take care of the wildlife there. There's lots of jobs, in logging. There are many jobs involved in forestry. And I know some of you may wonder why we cut trees. Well, first, like we cut the trees to produce products that we all use. And also, when the trees are planted back in a plantation, they provide a lot more oxygen for us to breathe. The smaller trees provide more oxygen, and as they grow, um, they provide a little less. But the forest is great for wildlife. You could go, I'm sure many of you have gone hunting. You can hunt deer and turkey in the forest. Uh, the forest is just a great place to go, even just for a nice little walk. Uh, Mary, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Cheryl. Let's talk about when you're planting pine trees. What time of year is the best time to plant, or when do a lot of people plant pine trees? And for everybody else, please go ahead and put your questions in the comment section so that we can answer all of the questions that you have about pine trees and the products that we get from the trees of our state.
Yes, the trees are typically planted from December to February. They're planted in the winter months where they'll get a good start to grow for the rest of the year. And the usually they're the planting crews, like they just come in that time of year and plant. It's very interesting to watch a crew plant. They have a little thing called a dibble bar that they stick in the ground and put the tree in there, and then cover it up with dirt. They can plant like hundreds of acres in just a day or so. It's amazing to watch a planting crew.
All right. Another question that we have for you is, so a lot of crops kind of have a 1 year life cycle. So, if you're planting cotton, you plant at this time of year, around this time of year in May, and then you're harvesting, hopefully finished by the end of November. Tell us about, the investment that a forest landowner makes in trees, because it's not quite the same. You're not getting a harvest out of those trees every year, right?
No, you're not. In fact, like when you plant a plantation, it typically costs around $100 or so an acre to plant. And like I say, you plant those from December to February. Well, then you're going to have to wait 12 to 15 years before you have any kind of return on your planting investment. And then, depending on the price of pulpwood, you might get between $1,000 and $1,500 per acre when you thin. And when you thin the first time and the second time, and then when they're logs, you may get about 2,000 or so an acre. And of course, everything depends on the market price. It's just like other crops; you have to depend on whatever the market price is at the time.
All right. So we do have a question, and everybody else that's watching, if you have a question, just throw that in the comment section and we'll get to it. Matt Wilson is asking, how many different products typically come from these trees?
Oh goodness, that's a hard question. Well, of course, like the main thing for pulpwood is to make pulp, to make paper. Like we make there's toilet paper, there's paper towels, there's like paper plates, there's copy paper, the brown, like when you get a box, like you order something from Amazon, it comes in a brown box. That box is actually a product, like of the trees also. And then as they get older, like they make, like I mentioned, lumber, and some hardwood trees they cut cross ties, and those are used a lot in the landscaping business, and also for railroads.
All right. So you mentioned hardwoods. What's a difference between a softwood and a hardwood?
Well, let's see. I don't see a good species of hardwood. Right, most of this stand is pine. A hardwood is, like things like red oak, white oak, poplar. There's a lot of varieties of hardwood. I wish wish there was one here, but I don't see one. We're close by.
That's all right. We can, so but they're probably going to have different kinds of leaves instead of needles. They're going to have more leaves and that kind of thing. Is
Yes.
that right? Okay.
Yes, that is correct. A pine tree will have needles, and all of your hardwood has leaves. Some they range from like 1 inch to 5 inches. The
All
leaves
right.
do.
All right. So tell me, because you mentioned that you've worked in the forestry industry for a long time, and at least in my lifetime, which is about as old as the trees are that you cut down to become, power line poles or other big things. Um, I haven't seen a run on like toilet paper and paper products like we've had recently. So tell us what it's been like in the forestry industry for these past couple of months because of the pandemic that we've been facing.
Yes, the local mill here, there was probably for maybe the month of March. The company that I work for, we switched and started hauling all pulpwood, and we didn't haul any pine logs or anything during that time because the mills were all needing all the pulpwood they could get to make toilet tissue. That was, a challenge for the company that I work for to, to switch over and just ship pulpwood.
All right. So we have a couple other questions coming in here too. So Binish Abdullah is wondering, what are the different types of trees you cut and how many in a day get cut? So we're talking about pine trees at this point. So maybe just the more, how many could you cut in a day? Could a crew cut in a day?
Oh goodness. Let's see. The company that I work for typically hauls about 700 loads a week, and on one load of pulpwood, it's probably about 25 tons, which would be probably about 30 trees on a load. Uh, I don't have my calculator to calculate that, but you could just multiply, 30 times. Like we probably haul 100 loads a week. I mean, a day. I'm sorry.
Okay, so it would be like 21,000, I think, in
Yeah,
a week time, and what that would be 3,000. Yeah, that'd be 3,000 a day.
3,000 a day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Okay. Thank you
impressive.
for your help, Mary.
It's all right. My mom is hopefully proud. Hopefully, I did my math right because I tried to do math the other day and it was way, way awful. But my mom was a math teacher, so hopefully, I made her proud just then. All right.
Maybe.
So Sarah Mitchell is wondering, is there a market for pine straw?
Yes. There used to not really be a market for pine straw, but since so many people landscape their lawns now, I think that's the number one use of pine straw is to put in your landscaping around your house. Um, none of the companies I've ever worked for, have ever gotten into that market. They considered it one time, but the machinery it just wasn't worth the investment for them.
It might be something that like the landowner themselves could
Yeah.
potentially do. They could look at baling that and doing it in between maybe the times that the trees are harvested, I guess, since you've got some time, a
Oh
few
yeah,
years.
that
Yeah.
would be a great investment tool while you're waiting for your trees to mature to cut.
All right. We also have Whitney Haynes is wondering, does the region where the trees are planted affect the length of the growing season, or basically the time it takes for the tree to reach maturity? So I guess, are there different parts of the state where it takes longer to harvest the tree, or maybe even of the country, I guess?
Yes, the further north you go, the longer the season. One company that I work for, we own some land in Tennessee, and there, like you had to wait until the trees, like were more like 15 to 17 years old to thin the first time. So it does take a little longer. The further north you go, it seems to take a longer growing season.
I did not realize that, but that makes sense for why there's a whole lot more pine trees in South Alabama, because you're getting a quicker turnover, a quicker return. Not that 30 years is quick or that 10 years is necessarily quick, but quicker than 15 years. All right. Another question we have from Marlee Moore. She's wondering, what are some of the challenges that you face in the forestry industry, whether that's workforce or disease or markets? Any challenges that you guys deal with?
Yes, workforce is an issue. The company that I work for employs around 80 people. And, sometimes it is difficult to find, people that know how to drive a skidder or fell a buncher or a log truck, and it is difficult to find people sometimes. And yeah, in the market, of course, that's the main factor that we have. Like when they lower the price of pulpwood, then it really, hurts our revenue, of course. That's the biggest challenge, is the market price.
All right. Got another question from Lana Smelley. She's wondering, from the time that you plant and then to your lumber yard, how long does it typically take to process and fabricate a 2x4? So I guess we so what length of time does a 2x4 come from that 30-year-old tree? And then once it's harvested, I guess how long does it take in the lumber yard to process that into something that you would find at, Lowe's or Home Depot or something?
Yes. Uh, Once a tree goes to the lumber yard, and that's a really neat thing to watch too, because most sawmills now have lasers, and so the log goes, like on the bin, and a laser light will go on the tree, and it calculates like how many 2x4s or what other products are in the tree. It's and I would say probably within an hour and a half, maybe, uh, a 2x4 would be produced once it's gotten to the yard.
Wow, that's amazing that they can do that, that it can figure all that out so quickly. Just
Yes.
tech technology is so cool. So we've got a couple of folks that have let us know that they're watching. Miley and Mallee are watching, and they actually have a question for you too. The question that came in is, how many forestry do you have? So I guess they're wondering about your personal farm. How many acres of forest land do you have? And do you happen to know how many trees are planted in that area, or is it kind of a fluctuating number?
Yes, it's definitely a fluctuating number. My husband and I, we only have 160 acres that are in forest production, and we own probably about that much more. I failed to mention at the beginning that yes, we are a landowner, and we also raise cattle. But we probably have 160 acres that is in forest, and yeah, there's no way to really calculate how many trees there are. I did try to call and find out, but they didn't even have a number for the county as to how many forested acres we have in the county.
Okay, it's a lot,
Yes.
a whole
I mean,
lot
there
of
are,
trees.
yes, there's like 22 million acres of forest land in the state of Alabama alone, and I mean, that's just mind boggling.
Hmm. So I guess unless we get any more questions in, the last question that I can think for you is, tell us about. So I think we're all, especially people my age, we grew up with hearing about how we really needed to protect our tree resources and we needed to recycle paper. But tell us about kind of the planting process. And we did actually have one more question come in, so I'll have another one for you after this.
Okay.
But tell us about, once trees are harvested, or I guess are trees a renewable resource? That's my question for you. That's what I'm trying to get around to.
Yes, they are a renewable resource. Like I mentioned earlier, like by the time that you want to totally clear cut the stand when the trees are like between 30 and 40 years old, like you've already thinned out trees 2 times. So that's, less trees than what you had when you first planted. And so then when that's, when those trees are clear cut, and then the next winter it will be replanted, and like you're actually planting back, more trees than you took out. So it's definitely a renewable resource.
All right, fantastic. So we've got 2 more questions that have come in. Pennie Stover, her child Aubrey, wants to know if you ever do anything special with pine cones.
Yes, we like to spray paint pine cones and use them like on our tree as an ornament, like the smaller trees. And then sometimes um, the longleaf variety of pine trees, they have pine cones that, like are more like this tall and kind of this big around. And they're great to decorate your table, or, like just different things like that. They're so.
All right, fantastic. And that's actually, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the pine cones are an important part because that's where you get the seeds from to grow the other trees, right? Is that right?
Yes, yes, that's true. Uh, in fact, my husband Jeff years ago worked at a tree nursery, and the trees that they had there, they would get up in a, like a bucket truck and pick the pine cones, and then they let them dry. And when they dry, then I mean, it's amazing how many seedlings come from a pine cone. And then those the little seedlings are then the seed from the pine cone are planted in, like a little container, like you would see like flowers at the nursery. They're planted in that, they're grown in like a little container to start with, and then they're transplanted into a bed at a nursery. And then when they, reach a certain age, then they're all lifted and sold to be replanted.
Very cool. All right, so our last question for you comes from, oh, sorry, Donna Shanklin. She's wondering, do you like squirrels? Because wildlife is important in a forest.
Yes, I do like squirrels. In fact, when my dad used to take me squirrel hunting, I would try to throw sticks at the squirrels so he couldn't shoot them. But yes, I do like squirrels, and any other wildlife that's, like this in the forest. When the crews are out cutting, they do try to, make sure that they don't harm any wildlife when they're, felling trees or anything.
Oh, whoops. I had my mic muted. Sorry about that. But very important to take care of all of the animals that share our space. All right,
That's
I'm
right.
getting a little bit of feedback on my microphone, which I think that's just an internet issue. So we'll take that as our last question. Everybody say thank you so much to Cheryl for being with us. We appreciate it. We appreciate Kelly being your photographer today, and a happy late birthday to you as well.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you soon, Cheryl. And you guys, remember that we've got lots of fun activities that are linked in the comment section that you guys can do that are related to forestry. So if you'll look for just the comment from the Alabama Farmers Federation, you'll find the coloring book page from our coloring book. And this guy says, some farmers raise trees. We get paper for notebooks, napkins, even this coloring book from trees, and even the printer paper. So you can color that in. You can also find our ag mag on there as well. This is a 4-page full color. If you click on the link, it will be full color. And you can learn lots more about the forestry, and it even talks about the softwood and the hardwood trees there, which Cheryl mentioned. And on the back page, there's the fun tree squares game. So something that you can do along with the family, see who gets the most squares. And there is also a link to Color the Outdoors. And if you click on the Color the Outdoors link, that is where you're going to find our good friend Smokey Bear and also Woodsy Owl. but you can find their coloring book pages, print those out, color them in. And we would love to see what you guys have done with these activities. So just share those photos on Facebook or Instagram. Once you've done those, you can tag us on Facebook as @Alabama Farmers or on Instagram as @Alpha Farmers. A few other things that I just want to share with you. There's a great link, especially for parents, from Classroom in the Forest. You can get the entire leader's guide for Classroom in the Forest from there. And that's it. It just has lots of great descriptors, and it has oh gosh, I've lost my tab. Here we go. Has lots of great descriptions in there, but also games and activities like a Forest Jeopardy that you can play. And then I wanted to show this to you too for any of your older kids that you have, or if you're just interested in the different jobs that are available. There's Forestry Works, has a whole list of different careers that you can do that are related to the forestry industry. So that's kind of cool to be able to see the breakdown of all of the different jobs that are related to forestry, to planting these trees and getting the forest products, those paper products into our stores. So there's so many different careers that you could do. That would be a fun exploration to do if you've got middle schoolers or high schoolers. And then we also have other word games and activities from our friends over at the Alabama Forestry Commission. So those are linked in the comments as well. A reminder that you can find all of the virtual field trips that we've done at that link. It's alphafarmers.org/virtual-field-trip. We've covered lots of commodities with these. This is our 7th one now. So we've done peanuts, fruits and vegetables, catfish. I know that I'm going to forget something here: honeybees, beef cattle, and tree nursery. So, and then forestry today. All of the links will be on that webpage as well. And please join us next week for our last of the virtual field trip series. That's going to be with Garrett Dixon of Lee County. He's going to tell us about how he grows cotton and other row crops. So be sure to join us then. It's going to be at 10 a.m. Central Time again, and we'll hope to see you next week. Thank you all so much. Bye.